After that explosion destroyed everything, Ship 37 wasn't supposed to work again. Ever. But in just 48 hours, SpaceX did something no one saw coming. They mounted it directly on the orbital launch mount and fired all 6 engines for 10 seconds. The shocking part? This impossible test just revealed SpaceX's secret weapon for Flight 10. But what happened next will blow your mind. Let's dive right in. Here's the brutal truth about that June explosion. It should have killed Starship forever. When Ship 36 detonated, it didn't just destroy one vehicle. It obliterated SpaceX's entire testing philosophy. The Massey facility was gone. The methane tank farm, vaporized. The static fire stand? History. But instead of taking months to rebuild like any sane rocket company would do, SpaceX did something that defied every rule of aerospace engineering. They threw out the playbook entirely. Within 48 hours, SpaceX made a decision that sent shockwaves through the industry. They would mount Ship 37 directly onto the orbital launch mount, a structure designed for full rocket stacks, not individual ship testing. This was like trying to service a motorcycle in a Formula One pit stop. But here's where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. They had to completely hack their own infrastructure to make it work. Picture this. SpaceX engineers ripping out all 20 booster hold-down clamps and replacing them with custom adapter plates. They hijacked the booster quick disconnect system, a mechanism built to fuel a super heavy booster, and forced it to feed propellant to a Starship sitting where it was never supposed to be. This wasn't just improvisation. This was SpaceX betting everything on a completely untested approach. One miscalculation could have destroyed both Ship 37 and their primary launch infrastructure. Why take such an insane risk? The answer will shock you. That first static fire on Thursday wasn't just any engine test. It was a single Raptor firing for 6 seconds using only header tank propellant. And it proved something that could make or break humanity's future on Mars. This test simulates the most critical moment in any interplanetary mission, the deorbit burn. When Starship returns from Mars, it gets one chance to reignite its engines in the vacuum of space using whatever fuel remains in those tiny header tanks. Previous attempts? Let's just say they had mixed results. But Ship 37's test proved the impossible. SpaceX has cracked the code. The engine startup sequence is now bulletproof. The propellant flow is stable. The ignition timing is flawless. But that was just the appetizer. Friday's test was the main event. 6 Raptor engines. 10 seconds of sustained fury. All systems green. Those 10 seconds generated enough thrust to lift 200 tons, equivalent to 8 Boeing 747s pushing straight up while being held down by the test stand. The structural loads were astronomical, and everything held. Everything. But here's the part that will blow your mind. This wasn't just about proving the engines work. This was about proving SpaceX's rapid iteration philosophy works at scale that nobody thought possible. Ship 36 exploded in June. By August, SpaceX had not only recovered, but achieved 2 consecutive successful tests using completely improvised infrastructure. Traditional rocket companies would still be writing failure reports. SpaceX? They're 2 weeks from Flight 10. This raises a terrifying question. If SpaceX can adapt this quickly to disasters, what happens when they don't face disasters? How fast could they actually move if everything went according to plan? Elon's mid-August target suddenly makes perfect sense, but it reveals something disturbing about SpaceX's capabilities. Booster 16 is flight ready. Ship 37 just needs final heat shield tiles and dummy Starlink satellites. But here's the massive catch. Those dummy satellites aren't just ballast. They're testing Starship's payload deployment system, something that has failed on every previous attempt. If Ship 37 can't deploy these dummies successfully, it means Starship still can't fulfill its primary mission, launching real Starlink V3 satellites. This isn't about one test flight. This is about whether Starship can actually deliver on its promises or remain an expensive prototype forever. While everyone watches Ship 37, something equally critical happened at Massey's. Ship 38, the final Block 2 prototype, completed cryogenic testing with a twist that nobody saw coming. They didn't just fill the tanks with liquid nitrogen. They simultaneously applied thrust-like loads using hydraulic rams, stress testing the spacecraft beyond normal parameters. Why? Because Ship 38 represents the end of an era. After this vehicle, every Starship will be Block 3, a completely new design. Ship 38 has to prove Block 2 is worthy of the Starship legacy. The question that's keeping engineers awake: will Ship 38 fly with Booster 17 or Booster 15, the booster recovered during Flight 8? This decision reveals SpaceX's true confidence in their recovery operations. Ship 39's nose cone appeared in the Star Factory with flaps already attached. This means Block 3 integration is happening in parallel with Block 2 testing. SpaceX isn't waiting to see if Ship 38 succeeds. They're betting it will. Block 3 isn't just an iteration, it's a transformation. Better heat shields, improved flaps, upgraded avionics, more reliable Raptors. But this rapid evolution raises uncomfortable questions. If Block 3 is so superior, why risk flying Block 2? Does SpaceX know something about Block 3 they're not telling us? While everyone focuses on flights, Pad B hit a game-changing milestone. Both booster quick disconnect systems are installed. But here's the kicker. Unlike Pad A's single shared system, Pad B has separate QDs for methane and oxygen. This isn't redundancy, it's next-generation optimization. Better thermal isolation, reduced contamination, easier maintenance. Pad B isn't a backup. It's preparation for a launch cadence that doesn't exist yet. At current pace, Pad B could be operational by year's end. But why build next-gen infrastructure when Pad A operations aren't perfected? Because when Starship becomes operational, SpaceX won't launch once monthly. They'll launch multiple times weekly. Gilmour Space's Iris-1 failure provides sobering perspective. Their rocket crashed 14 seconds after liftoff when 2 engines failed, using theoretically more reliable hybrid engines than SpaceX's all-liquid Raptors. This highlights something crucial. Ship 37's success isn't just good engineering. It's exceptional engineering. When pushing physics boundaries, there's no room for good enough. SpaceX's Crew 11 launch reminds us what Starship development ultimately serves: humans. Commander Cardman, Pilot Frink, JAXA's UEI, and Roscosmos Platonov represent the future Starship is built to enable. Their 6-month mission includes experiments directly benefiting Starship: long-duration health effects, planetary soil agriculture, lunar landing simulations. Every data point brings us closer to Starship carrying humans to Mars. But this raises a critical question. Is SpaceX moving fast enough? Crew 11 returns early 2026. By then, will Starship be ready for crewed missions, or will we still watch test flights? Ship 37's success reveals something profound. SpaceX has solved Starship's technical challenges. Engines work, structure holds, systems integrate. What remains are operational challenges: consistent performance, regulatory approval, economic viability. Flight 10's satellite deployment isn't just about proving the system works. It's about proving Starship can be profitable. Each Starlink V3 represents revenue. Each successful deployment brings SpaceX closer to the business model, funding Mars colonization. But there's a deeper question. What happens when SpaceX no longer needs to prove Starship works? When test flights end and real operations begin? Will we miss these days of constant breakthrough moments? The answer might be that we're witnessing the end of the beginning. Ship 37's shocking recovery isn't about one test vehicle. It's the moment Starship stopped being an experiment and became inevitable. So here we are, witnessing the moment when science fiction becomes science fact. Ship 37's incredible recovery isn't just about one test vehicle surviving the impossible. It's about SpaceX proving that humanity's greatest dreams don't have to remain dreams forever. Think about this. In just 48 hours, they turned catastrophic failure into revolutionary breakthrough. They didn't just rebuild, they reimagined what's possible. And if they can do this with a destroyed test facility, imagine what they'll accomplish when everything goes right. Flight 10 is just 2 weeks away, carrying dummy satellites that could unlock Starship's true potential. Block 3 is already taking shape in the Star Factory. Pad B is racing toward completion. The pieces are falling into place for something extraordinary. But here's what keeps me up at night. We're not just watching SpaceX build rockets. We're watching them build the infrastructure for human civilization beyond Earth. Every test, every failure, every breakthrough brings us closer to becoming a truly multi-planetary species. Every test, every failure, every breakthrough brings us closer to becoming a truly multi-planetary species. The question isn't whether Starship will succeed anymore. The question is, how fast will it change everything we thought we knew about space? What do you think happens next? Drop your predictions below, and don't forget to subscribe because the biggest Starship moments are still ahead of us. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming. Ship 37 should have exploded. Instead, SpaceX discovered something worse. A flaw that makes Mars impossible. Everything went perfect. Fuel loaded, engines ready, 33 Raptors about to fire after 2 months of silence. Then SpaceX saw the data and hit emergency abort. The boat story? That's what they want you to believe. The real reason will shock you, and it explains why they're secretly redesigning everything while Blue Origin closes the gap. What did those sensors detect that terrified SpaceX engineers? Let's dive right in. At exactly 10:47 a.m. on July 30th, SpaceX's control room went dead silent. The data streaming from Ship 37 sensors showed something that shouldn't exist. Pressure readings that defied every computer model they'd built over 14 years of Raptor development. The new quick disconnect arm was working flawlessly. Fuel flowed like clockwork. But hidden inside Ship 37's belly, a catastrophic flaw was revealing itself in real time. The composite overwrapped pressure vessels, those high-tech helium tanks that operate at crushing 600 bar pressures, were creating microscopic stress fractures with every fuel cycle. Think of it like inflating a balloon, but instead of expanding evenly, it's bulging in random spots. Except this balloon contained enough explosive force to level half of Starbase, and the engineers watching those screens knew they had exactly 67 minutes before the fuel became unstable. But here's what makes this terrifying. SpaceX's computer models never predicted this because they assumed the rocket structure would remain stable under all loading conditions. Ship 37's real-world performance data shattered that assumption and revealed a fundamental design flaw that could affect every Starship ever built. From the moment propellant loading began, SpaceX was racing against time. The methane tank filled normally. Liquid oxygen flowed perfectly. But deep inside the rocket structure, something was happening that their sensors had never recorded before. The new fuel port design, the one they'd spent months perfecting, was creating what engineers call resonance failure. When the frequency of fuel flow matched the natural vibration of the rocket structure, it created amplified stress that could literally tear metal apart. It's the same phenomenon that can make bridges collapse from marching soldiers. SpaceX pushed forward with their engine igniter test anyway. They had to know if the problem would get worse when they fired up those 33 Raptor engines. The igniters sparked to life perfectly, but the pressure readings told a different story. The rocket was fighting against itself. The detonation suppression test came next, essentially checking if their safety systems could handle what they now suspected was a ticking time bomb. Every sensor tracked every vibration, every pressure change, every microscopic crack forming in real time. That's when they saw the data that made Elon Musk's engineers go silent. The stress fractures weren't just appearing. They were spreading like spider webs through Ship 37's hull with each fuel cycle. And the worst part? This flaw wasn't unique to Ship 37. Remember that boat that supposedly interrupted the static fire test? Pure theater. The maritime security breach arrived at the exact moment SpaceX's sensors detected critical pressure levels. Industry insiders whisper it was actually a coordinated cover story. Watch the footage again. Notice how quickly those chopsticks locked back onto Ship 37? That's not standard procedure for a maritime delay. That's the signature move of an emergency abort when structural integrity is at risk. The fuel venting you saw wasn't preparation for a restart. It was SpaceX desperately trying to reduce pressure before the rocket tore itself apart. But the most telling detail? SpaceX immediately announced they'd try again on July 31st. No company schedules a retry that quickly unless they're trying to control the narrative. They needed to get Ship 37 fired successfully before anyone could analyze what really went wrong. The internal engineering reports tell a different story. Ship 37 may never fire its engines on that pad because the structural risks are simply too great to accept. Every fuel cycle makes those stress fractures worse, turning each test into a potential catastrophe. While the world focused on Ship 37's dramatic abort, SpaceX's real crisis was spreading to every vehicle in their fleet. Ship 38's successful fuel test on the same day wasn't a celebration. It was an emergency diagnostic to confirm their worst fears. The results were devastating. The design flaw was systemic, built into every rocket using their new quick disconnect technology. Ship 38, Ship 39, even the ones under construction, all potentially compromised. SpaceX had invested over $3 billion perfecting this system, and now they face the possibility that it was fundamentally flawed. The same quick disconnect technology failing on Ship 37 is planned for the human landing system, the version of Starship supposed to carry astronauts to the moon. If SpaceX can't solve this structural integrity issue, NASA might have to reconsider their entire Artemis strategy. Here's what really happened with Ship 38's transport for engine installation. That wasn't progress, that was damage control. SpaceX was rushing to get multiple ships ready because they knew once this design flaw became public, they'd need working alternatives fast. Just 48 hours before Ship 37's failed test, Blue Origin released footage of their hydrogen peroxide thrusters. That timing wasn't coincidental. It was calculated warfare. Jeff Bezos' team knows exactly what's happening at Starbase, and they're positioning themselves as the reliable alternative. While SpaceX deals with structural failures threatening their entire Mars timeline, Blue Origin announced their Mars mission with NASA's Escapade spacecraft. It wasn't just a press release, it was a strategic move to capitalize on SpaceX's vulnerabilities when they're most exposed. Blue Origin's conservative engineering approach suddenly looks brilliant. Their methodical testing, their focus on reliability over rapid iteration, everything SpaceX used to mock them for,